Imagine going to work every day and being around chemicals that could kill you. Guys, today I have to give my speech. So in about 5 hours, 5 hours and 9 minutes, let's do this car. This one's faster. Oh, I can't do that car. We're playing dangerous car driving because I kind of like the dangerous bus driving the other day. So I have to give my speech. In 5 hours, I have to go to a fire watch. I guess it's like 5.5 actually, which actually makes me feel just a tiny bit better because that gives me an extra half hour of time. But I've got basically 5.5 hours to plan my speech. Also, this is so much. Holy goodness, what a voice crack. This is so much easier than dangerous bus driving. I don't really know if I would call this dangerous. I think this is good because my plan for today's video is to practice my speech for you guys so that you could hear it. I've not practiced it a single time. I wrote a cluster map, kind of like going over the main areas that I wanted to talk about. And then I also wrote like a speech outline. So I'm just going to kind of look at my speech outline and just go over it so you guys can learn a thing or two. And this is going to be talk about OSHA PELs. Those are permissible exposure limits. I'll just kind of like teach you guys what those are. The point of this speech is just to be informational. So as long as I'm teaching people and I like maintain I can't maintain eye contact with the camera today because I'm kind of playing Roblox. I won't be playing Roblox during my speech though. At least I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I think I would probably get a pretty bad grade. So with all that out of the way, OSHA permissible exposure limits, also known as PELs, provide legal limits for how much workers can be exposed to different substances in the workplace. And then there are also organizations like NIOSH and the ACGIH, which have provided further scientific research on these substances. And knowing the different types of safety regulations can help you understand the different kinds of protection available in modern workplaces. So, I am an occupational safety and health student currently studying the history and application of industrial safety standards. So I have reviewed lots of documentation provided by OSHA, as well as guidelines provided by NIOSH and the ACGIH regarding different hazardous materials found in the workplace. So I'm first going to describe the basic purpose of OSHA PELs, kind of like what they are. And then second, I will explain the history of how these standards have influenced the workplace since 1971. And then third, I'll get into NIOSH and the ACGIH and kind of how they've affected the workplace as well. So first of all, what are OSHA PELs? What is an exposure limit, a permissible exposure limit? So a permissible exposure limit, you can think of it kind of as just a limit of how much of any substance you're allowed to breathe in or be around during the workday. And there's two different kind of OSHA limits. So first of all, you've got your PEL, or fetch guys, I messed up. So first of all, you've got what's called a TWA, a time-weighted average. And this takes the average amount of any dangerous chemical that you breathe in during a workday, and it makes sure that you're not breathing in too much of it. So like, let's say that you work around mercury, you're only allowed to breathe in 50 parts per million of mercury during an 8-hour period. And then there's also something, also I completely made that number up. I'll get it more exact for the speech. That's probably so wrong. And then there's also something called a ceiling. And ceilings act as a guide of where you should never cross. So you may be allowed to be exposed to 1,000 total units of mercury throughout your entire workday. And that's divided over 480 minutes in an 8-hour workday. So, you can breathe in basically 2 parts per million a minute. But there's also something called a ceiling. And you're not allowed to, I know this is like so unscripted, guys. This is just to kind of give me an idea of like what I'm going to talk about once I actually get there. I've still got 5 hours to plan this, so hopefully I can get it good enough to actually give it. And what ceilings do is it basically says, while your average needs to be below this, at no point can you ever exceed 3 parts per million. If you exceed 3 parts per million, then you're also in danger because just that little amount in that short amount of time can be super dangerous to you. And so you want to avoid those. So back in 1971, I crashed my car. Just kidding. Who crashed their car in 1971? I don't think anybody. Back in 1971, OSHA was founded, and they published all of these different standards to try to keep people safe in the workplace. And these were obviously great standards. There were a lot of scientific studies done to make sure that these were good numbers. However, and no offense to anyone born before 1971, but many of these standards have become outdated. They're not necessarily something you shouldn't follow because it's still going to keep you safe, but some of these standards, further research has been done by NIOSH and the ACGIH, and they found that the standards maybe aren't as stringent as they originally should have been. And so I would now like to talk about why NIOSH and the ACGIH. What was that? What was that? That was, we hit something. We're going to respawn. I promise this won't be part of my speech. Wait, are we back at the beginning? Or no, we're at the checkpoint. Okay. let me look at my outline. I haven't even been looking at my outline this entire time. I really just, honestly, probably what I should do, I should just write out my speech, put it right above my camera, and then just read it. That would probably be the easiest way to go about this. Okay, so where was I? NIOSH, ACGIH, blah, blah, blah. So NIOSH conducts research to provide recommended exposure limits based on the most recent health data. So for example, they've got a book called the NIOSH Pocket Guide, and it is actually one of the most widely acceptable and used booklets in the workplace for keeping employees safe, because they update it every few years, if not every year, with new studies and new exposure limits. And for the most part, those exposure limits are going to stay the same because it's not like chemicals, substances, whatever you want to call them, are changing from year to year. They're staying pretty consistent. However, with more health studies and more data to go off of, we can see that maybe 50 parts per million is too much. Maybe we need to lower it down to 25. And so you can kind of think of the NIOSH and the ACGIH as people who study the law. They study how, let's say you have a speed limit in a school zone. NIOSH are the people who have done the research and have determined that 20 miles an hour, or whatever that is in British, I'm only saying whatever it is in British because I know. No, we're not dying right here. Okay, we're good. I know I have viewers from outside the United States, but everyone in my speech class, it's a United States college. I can speak in burgers per mile. Anyways, you can think of them as the researchers who have done the research and say that 20 miles an hour is how fast you should go. But then OSHA is the one who actually have authority. So OSHA starts with an O. You can think of them as the officers, also starts with an O. The officers are the only ones who can actually legally enforce it in the workplace. And so many companies will take recommendations from NIOSH or the ACGIH, and they'll say, this is our company's safety program. We want to make sure that we're always staying beneath these limits. However, you can't legally necessarily get in trouble unless you're going over the OSHA limits. Kind of where my speech is going. I did not really read exactly how I should have with that. How close are we to the end? I think we'll finish this game. Hopefully it's not like the other bus driving one where we get to the last stage and literally 50% of the video's runtime is from the last stage. So I know that was like a very, very rough run through of my speech. When I give my speech, I'm allowed to use note cards. Here's the thing. It's just informational. The only part that I would need to do word for word is if I'm going to use any actual exposure limit, like numbers, if I need to know the exact numbers. And all I have to do is memorize something like mercury or lead and just know what the numbers for that is. So this game is so easy. I know we died that one time, almost twice, but compared to Bus Simulator, or whatever that one was called, this is so nice. And then the other thing, just if I'm going to, where was I going? I'm not going to use any quotes from anybody. I already know the year 1971, which is really the only important year that I'm going to use this in the speech. I know enough about OSHA PELs and all of the different stuff to talk for it's a 5 to 7 minute speech, so I can definitely, you know, cover that amount of time. Just during this rough draft, I went through more time than that. I think the harder part is actually going to be getting through all of my points and making sure that I'm within the required time. So probably what I'm gonna do, I'm not actually gonna write out my entire speech. I might just write kind of the main points on note cards and tape it on the wall behind my camera. That way I can just kind of jump from one point to the next. That's essentially what I was doing right now, but I wasn't looking super well at what I was supposed to talk about because there's 3 different points or main topics of my speech, but you guys probably couldn't have told me that because I did not follow that at all. And we're kind of getting to the end of the video here. Oh, I can't back up. That's interesting. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. You're probably already subscribed. Definitely make sure to give the video a like. I don't know what I'm going to be doing today. I haven't even changed. I need to go shower. I also need to eat breakfast. I think I'm going to eat the cookies and cream ice cream for breakfast, which will be pretty yummy. Wow, I was going way too back and forth right there. And then I think I'm going to stream at some point. I don't know. I really don't know. I need to get this speech prepared first. If we're being honest, though, so I did a bunch of homework this morning. It's currently noon at the time of me recording this. I've finished most of my homework. So my next speech outline, the outline for the next speech is due next week. I haven't done that yet. Oh, the worlds get harder. I think we might be playing this game a little bit more because this is chill enough that I can kind of, you know, like just do it and talk, and it's not too scary. We're gonna start this, but we'll probably restart this world tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna prepare my speech first of all. Probably in about 2 or 3 hours, I'll try to. We might just do a little short stream for an hour. So I'm trying to get 2 weeks ahead in all of my classes. One class I can't really work ahead in because I have assignments due on Tuesday that don't open until Thursday, and then I'll have an assignment on Thursday that doesn't open until Tuesday. Those ones are the worst because I literally have less than 48 hours to complete the assignment, which obviously is more than enough time. It's just annoying because I can't get ahead. I always have to wait until Tuesday to start working, and then I don't know. I don't love the setup of that class, but it is teaching me a lot of really good things. I think we're halfway to the next checkpoint, so we'll get to the next checkpoint before we end this game. Hopefully when we come back. I don't know if we're necessarily going to play this tomorrow. Probably expect a little bit more of this game, though, because it's kind of fun. It's pretty chill, and I think it's enjoyable enough to watch, especially if I speed it up a little. We're almost at 15 minutes in this video, so I'll probably once again speed this video up because I don't want to waste your guys' time. I talked about it in the other bus video. Go watch that one if you haven't. Wait, am I going backwards? Oh, this was kind of, no, I'm not playing 99 Nights. Mia, get out here. That was kind of, not transparent of how far I was getting because it started counting down. I think that's all I really have to talk about today. I'm not going into work until later today, which is kind of nice. I don't know. This is my first Firewatch, my first official one, and we'll see how it goes. Supposedly it's 3 hours long. I think I'm allowed to listen to music or stuff, so I'll probably just bring an AirPod and listen, not necessarily music, I'll probably just listen to some YouTube videos or something. I'm trying to get ahead for 2 reasons in my classes. First of all, when the baby gets here, I want to be 2 weeks ahead so that if I need to take, I can't really take a break from the one class, well, and my swimming class, but all of my other classes I can take at least a 2-week break from, so that'll be nice. And then, whoa, Nitro. That's cool. Didn't know about that. Anyways, like and subscribe. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Wish me luck on my speech. And with that, I will see you in tomorrow's video. Adios.